All right, James Slickdeezy once again. Go ahead, subscribe to that channel. Click that notification button too. You already know what it is. Let's get it popping. All right, this one's a very sensitive subject right here. This one's titled Jeffery Epstein. It's about Jeffery Epstein. It's a documentary series, and it's called Filthy Rich. Man. And it lets you know right off the back, like the following contains graphic descriptions of sexual abuse to minors, and it'll be very disturbing for viewers to watch, you know what I mean? So they give you that description right off the top on each of the episodes. Now, it's a lot of different stories coming from these women. I'm only going to give you about a couple of them just to give you the gist of what Netflix is trying to do with this special. And then on top of that, I'll give you a situation about how he was able to play a scapegoat to some of this stuff. And it's unbelievable, man. So there you go, Jeffery Epstein. I mean, as you can see right here, he's definitely a smug type of character. You know, he's got a lot of money invested, a lot of things that he's done with his money. And in this scene, he's basically, they're asking him questions over and over again. He's pleading like the 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights. So, and he's basically one of those guys as a rich and powerful person. He had a lot of money. Like, how much money would you say?
He had a $15 to $20 million house here in Palm Beach. He had one of the largest townhouses in New York City, a massive apartment in Paris, his own private island in the Caribbean, sprawling ranch in New Mexico, a helicopter, 2 airplanes, one a 727.
Yeah, he ain't just had private jets, he had like private planes. I mean, like, he actually knew some really big, influential figures like Prince Andrews, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, just to name a few. It was, yeah. So he definitely had influence in high places. All right, so back in 1996, into this lady named Maria. And Maria was a painter. She had painted a lot of different things. And Maria ended up running into somebody by the name of Ghislaine Maxwell, who was a huge instigator in all the wrongdoings that Jeffrey Epstein was a part of. He was actually his longtime girlfriend or whatever. So Maxwell convinces Maria not to sell her painting to one couple, but instead to sell it to another couple, where actually the couple that she was going to sell the painting to, she was going to get $12,000 for, but she ended up taking half the deal off, and she only got $6,000 for, and the person she sold it to was Jeffrey. Talking about to get better connections into what she was doing. And at first he got Maria a job standing by the door. I mean, I guess she was making more money to stand by the door instead of like actually showing off her exhibits, and which was kind of messed up when you really think about it. So then Maxwell asked Maria at that one point in time, did she have any family or siblings or whatever? And she said she had a sister who was about 16, and this was her sister Annie. Yeah. All right, so Epstein and Maxwell end up convincing Maria to bring her sister Annie along, and they go to a grotto over in Ohio. And this is where a lot of the misconduct happened there for them. I mean, he was basically telling them, you know, for 45 minutes to an hour, you know, he wanted to get massages, and he would pay them $200 to $300 for each session. And there's where the perversion and molestation started. And so after all this, they filed complaints, they filed reports. And keep in mind, this was back in 1996. Like, the FBI told them it would be something here and there, this, that, and the third. And it basically didn't get back to them until 10 years later, to 2006, when they were finally able to pursue what was going on. Or 2005, actually. But, man, it was off the chain. So another random tidbit, like he's best friends with Donald Trump back then, at least in 92. Yeah, birds of a feather flock together, right? Here you have some old footage back then in 92 where they were at Trump's estates. Now, what does that have to do with anything or the subject at hand? You'll see when you watch the documentary. Trust me. Now, next person I want to talk about is this lady, Shauna. She lives in West Palm Beach, Florida, on the other side of his other grotto. And to the left, you have a younger picture of Shauna when she was also 14. Yeah. And now her story takes place in 2002, and like she had a crazy childhood. Like, she's seen a lot of abuse go down. Her mom was a crackhead. Her father got locked up in jail when she was like 3, and she went through a lot of situations. Like, but when the time she turned 12, her father was there with some girl who had about 3 kids or whatever, and she actually witnessed their 8-year-old son beat to death by her father and his girlfriend. And it's like, Wow, like that's insane. So like she basically had to run away from home and she's now living with her grandmother who had full custody. 2 years later, she goes to a party or something like that and meets somebody and they end up meeting Jeffrey Epstein. And this is how she looked at the time. She was 14 and the first time meeting Jeffrey Epstein. It's crazy. So at this point, they're at Epstein's house in West Palm Beach, Florida. He tells them pretty much the same stuff to tell them to get naked. And he'll give them $200 for a session, 45 to an hour, to pleasure him and do all types of things like that. And the girl that's with her, that's with Shauna, actually leaves. And she's like, "You're just going to leave me with him?" And it's a mess. You got another lady named Haley Robinson who was still in high school at the time, and she was 16. And she tells a story about how she had been raped before even meeting Jeffrey Epstein, so she's had to go through some struggles in her life too. All right, so he's basically telling her the same thing, massages for $200. I guess that's the limit that he wants to go with. $200, 45 minutes to an hour, whatever. The thing is, she said that she wasn't being touched like that. She wasn't allowing him to touch her or whatever. And at this point, he's thinking to himself, well, can she invite some, homegirls or whatever like that, and I'll pay you $200 for bringing them in and doing massages. So at this point, she kind of brings girls to the house to order technically to get out of her somewhat situation. And she reported to the police that she actually brought 24 girls in. All of them were under the age of 18. So when you look at it like that, depending on whether she was asked or she was forced to, doesn't that sound like a second-degree felony to me? To you? Just saying. Yeah, so at this point, Jeffrey's bringing in a smorgasbord of like underage girls. Basically, a molestation pyramid scheme. Yeah, one of the officers in a documentary said that, and he was like, a molestation pyramid scheme. I thought to myself, that's the perfect way to describe this monster, like, for real. All right, so I'll get into this one other detail that happened after the case started picking up after 10 years. They shut it down 12 years. It's about 2008 at this point. Around the same time, R. Kelly is acquitted for his stuff. So it's like, wow, that was just a year for people getting acquitted of things. So Jeffrey had his team with Alex Acosta and a couple of other district attorneys, and they were holding secret meetings behind closed doors. And apparently they were trying to do something to get a plea deal bargain, but he never even went to trial. And the victims weren't involved. The police weren't involved. The Panama Beach police station was pretty much shut down when it came to this. And bottom line is they agreed through a deal through the government, and they gave him only 18 months. Yeah, 18 months to be served off of multiple different evidence and people from multiple different villas that came out and talked about. It was maddening. It just shows how far money can stretch when it comes to certain people. The crazy thing is, when he was locked up, he was able to have a TV in his room. He was able to go out anytime he wanted. He could leave the jail 6 out of 7 days during the week for a work release or work permit, and he'd be gone at least 12 hours a day at a time and would have to come back at 8 p.m. I mean, it was crazy. And the crazy thing was, Jeffrey Epstein didn't even think it was fair he was getting 18 months. He ended up getting 13 months and serving a little bit of it on house arrest. But he really didn't care about house arrest because once he got out,
his probation almost on a daily basis. There's 11 pages here of just different violations. I think I myself documented 66 different days that he violated his probation.
it's crazy. It goes beyond anything you would think would ever happen to a normal pedophile in these circumstances. It's like,
I mean, just think about this. You have a pedophile out on probation. To violate probation in the state of Florida is illegal, except for Jeffrey Epstein.
and then it goes on to about some backstory about how he actually made all his money. It gives you some insight about, it took till like 21 years to convict him. It took to the Me Too movement to finally get something on him. It's like, And he's probably was doing it for longer than 21 years, but they start the documentary off in 1986. So, yeah, man, it's off the chain, man. And they get into a part about how, when he committed suicide in jail, which I still think is skeptical. And then they give you reasons why. You be like, nah, somebody gave him the business in there. Like, I don't even buy that suicide shit. I mean, don't get me wrong. Everything about this is bad, but the only reason I say give it a watch because, it gives self-awareness to people that might be in these situations or could possibly, try to avoid this stuff. You know what I mean? Because it just led to a whole bunch of solicitation of to, you know, prostituting, and it's just nasty, man. Yep. So it's entitled Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich. It's about 4 episodes. They're about 56 minutes apiece. How they broke it down and everything like that. The one question I have is like, where the heck is Ghislaine Maxwell at? Like, she's probably definitely in hiding. And like I said, you watch it all the way through, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So, that's pretty much all I have for it. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe to that channel, hit that like button, you know what I'm saying? Notifications and all that. And I'm out. Slickdeezy all the easy, Mr. 666. Ow, bitch.